I think Roseann Ketchmark will do a great job as a judge. I'm supportive of her. Looking at her background, I think we'll all be impressed the more we find out about her. She spent 4 years while getting her law degree as a registered nurse. She served for 12 years on the advocacy board for the Child Advocacy Center. This is something that in the last Congress, when we extended the Victims of Child Abuse Act, many of us got to be more familiar with those centers and the good work they do than we would be otherwise. I'm not personally well connected to the Ketchmark family, but I have lots of friends who are, and by the way, her family's here with her today. Her husband, her brother-in-law, her 3 children, all proud of her as they should be. But I am well connected with people that she has worked with and for. She worked for the Jackson County prosecuting attorney, who's a friend of mine. She worked for the Platte County prosecuting attorney, who's a friend of mine. She worked for, when Senator McCaskill was the prosecutor in Jackson County, obviously worked for a Democrat. She worked for a Republican prosecutor in Platte County. She worked for a Republican U.S. attorney and a Democrat U.S. attorney, and in all cases, they are supportive of her and her work and an advocate for her as we talk about this judgeship for the U.S. District Court Judge for the Western District of Missouri. I hope the committee reports her out favorably, and I intend to support her not only today but on the floor. Senator McCaskill.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Senator Grassley, and thank you, Senator Blunt. I am honored to be here today to lend my support to Roseann Ketchmark for a position on the Western District federal bench. I have known Roseann since I took office as Jackson County prosecutor in January of 1993. She was an assistant prosecutor in the office, and when you run a prosecutor's office, you are many days it feels like you're herding cats, and I'm not talking about the criminals, I'm talking about all the type A personalities you have in the office, because people who are attracted to the work of a prosecutor many times have, well, let's say maybe a heightened sense of self, to put it diplomatically. Roseann stood out to me because she didn't. Roseann was a trained nurse, and as I grew to know my staff, I was always struck by the fact that she was not capable of showboating. She was not capable of trying to get the light to shine on her. She had no sharp elbows. She kept her head down and worked incredibly hard and produced a quality product, and by product I mean her time in the courtroom. There are different ways to be effective in a courtroom. There are some lawyers that are very effective in a courtroom because they know how to fill the space with their personality. There are other attorneys that are good in the courtroom because they gain the confidence of the jurors. And that's the kind of trial lawyer that Roseann Ketchmark was. That's the kind of prosecutor she was. Because she was so good at her job, I designated her as the lead child homicide prosecutor in my office. Now, that is an enormous responsibility. And imagine the psychology of that job. Imagine the stress of every day knowing you had to open files and become very familiar with sets of facts that no one should ever have to read about, much less relive day in and day out as you prove to our criminal justice system that someone deserves to be locked up for killing a child. I was sad when she got another job, but it was a promotion, and it's always encouraging when people you work with in your office are succeeding and moving on. And she went on to work for, as Senator Blunt mentioned, a Republican prosecutor in the adjoining county. He quickly realized that she was the kind of manager and prosecutor that could be a mentor, someone who could train young lawyers and who could help run his office. And she was the first assistant, which is the most important job. That's like a chief of staff in the Senate. in terms of making sure the office run well. She did such a good job there that she was then recruited away to the U.S. Attorney's Office, where she has done remarkable work for 14 years under U.S. attorneys that were appointed by Republican presidents and U.S. attorneys that were appointed by Democratic presidents. The one thing that I always like to find out about when I am looking at candidates to have a lifetime appointment is, how do the people who work with them feel about them? How do the lawyers that are on the other side of cases feel about them? How do judges view them? And in this case, Roseann is at the top. Roseann Ketchmark is at the top of everyone's list. And these are, you know, from very liberal criminal defense lawyers who I disagree with a lot on many things, to the most conservative federal bench for federal judges. Roseann has incredibly high references. And I'm not sure, Senator, that you will have very many judges that will come before you, potential judges, judges that are seeking confirmation, that have been a lead lawyer in a jury trial over 75 times. She's participated in more than 100 trials. And when you have been in front of 28 different judges, so Roseann Ketchmark knows a good judge when she sees it, because she has been in a courtroom in front of 28 different judges, which allows you to view what works in a courtroom. What habits do judges have that are respectful of the litigants? What judges show how hard they've worked in terms of really understanding the issues in front of them, not just something that's been written by their staff, but something they fundamentally grasp and understand. So I think this is going to be a superior appointment, a superior confirmation. I want to tell you how much I appreciate, Senator Grassley, you holding this hearing today. I know that it is hard to figure out who gets in front of the committee and who doesn't at this point, and I know I speak for Senator Blunt that the state of Missouri is very grateful that you're giving her an opportunity to appear in front of you today, and thank you very much.